evening.
Good evening and welcome.
There's probably a short delay at the beginning of that because we were still whirring. Hello, it's Beck and Deb, and how are you all? Welcome back to me because I wasn't here last week.
Beck wasn't with me last week. I had the lovely Lucy join me last week. We had a great show, actually. You know,
I was just going to say, yeah, cheers. But it feels like that, like it's a week ago that I wasn't
like
here.
A lifetime ago.
It really, really does. Which we'll probably talk a bit more
about.
So
much has happened. So much has happened.
What a week. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's show. Before we start, I just wanted to tell you, in light of all the joys that have been the coronavirus, Deb and I made some decisions yesterday about some one of our online programs, Relationship School, which you may have heard us talk about. We're aware that many people potentially aren't sure what on earth is going on with their finances. Same. So we kind of decided what we would do with Relationship School is make it available to anybody who wants to join in for 3 different price options. You can pick which price most suits you, what feels most comfortable for you to pay, and you still get full access no matter which one you choose. No judgment, no questions asked from us, but it means hopefully that more people can access it in these slightly unusual and uncertain times.
Our relationships, it feels to me like our relationships are going to be put to the test.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've had a lot of calls from, been taking a lot of calls from people, and being locked in a house with people, your kids, or feeling alone. I think it's more relevant than it even was when we decided to do this.
Yeah, when we first started it. So check that out on our website, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. We're more than happy to kind of hang out and chit chat with people. If you're not sure how to join in, what you think you can pay, those kinds of things, we're happy to chat about it. We just think this is the right time to be getting involved, joining in, and this program just feels, like Deb said, even more relevant now than even than when we first thought about doing it. So
and we have got a few other online programs, stuff that we do online. And one of the things, we sadly had to cancel one of our retreats. So we have decided to do an online retreat. It's something that we've not done before. So we're quite excited about that.
I was just going to say, just to be clear, because there are people out there that have paid for a retreat.
It's not
an
the
April
June
retreat that we had,
that
Lucy was running.
It's not our June retreat at the moment. We have everything crossed that we, maybe this craziness will have cleared a little bit, and maybe we'll be able to get together again in June, because I think we'll be dying for some real human contact by then.
Might well be.
Yeah. Oh, and just to be clear, in case anyone who's watching who doesn't know, Beck and I actually live together as well as work together.
Yes,
so we're not breaking any rules.
Yeah, we realised that when we went on a call this morning, didn't we? We were like, we do actually live and work together, so we are technically allowed to be next to each other.
Well, we're kind of together all the time.
We did think about social distancing on the call, but we're together all the time, pretty much.
So we've got an online retreat which you can check out on our website as well. And we are going to do some mini mentoring again, because we had some great fun with some little tasters of the mentoring that we do. So that's going to be on there as well. And also we have got a full mentoring program coming up. We have already got a mentoring underway, but we decided we would put another one on, because I know a lot of people's plans may have changed this time. So please, do reach out and have a call with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So living, learning and loving for long it feels like this kind of chaos has been ensuing, is how many things actually just carry on, like how many things just continue to do what they do. And I know quite a few people have kind of pointed out the obvious stuff, like kind of nature continues to do what nature does. In our garden, we've got daffodils kind of blooming in our hedgerows. They're absolutely beautiful. The sheep are having babies. There's lambs all over playing around in the fields.
Lambs that we're watching frolicking in the field. It's so beautiful to watch them.
Yeah, but I've really, in the last week particularly, I've really kind of noticed every day, really been noticing the things that are just happening the same as they always did. And that, just from everything, like I noticed that I still drink water. I haven't stopped drinking, I notice that I still feed myself. I notice that I still go to bed and wake up and I have dreams and happen, whatever they might be. And that I just get up each day and carry on. and that I notice that I get tired, and so I go to bed and I pick up my book and I read like I've always done. And it's really been hitting me a lot how many things just carry on being done. Like, and not even that I'm consciously going, oh, I must remember to feed myself in the midst of this chaos. I just get hungry. My body doesn't know that there's chaos in the world. It just says, ah, you're hungry, you better eat, it's lunchtime. And that, to me, just for me, it really just brings me back to seeing how this system works. So we talk about this a lot. We talk about how this, how we're all part of the same system. We all work on the same system. And my thoughts come and go the same as they've always done. Sometimes I'm having really crazy off the wall thinking and I'm scared or I'm worried or I'm this or I'm that. And other times I'm having the most amazing thing. How fantastic that I get to kind of lock down a little bit. It's been amazing to me to watch how many things in life have just carried on regardless of the chaos that seems to be happening out on the planet. So many things just keep kind of happening the way that they've always done, and it's really shown me my kind of learning from that, if you like, is what we talk about. There's real truth here, because even in the midst of what is possibly one of the worst things that's happened to our generation, even here, life carries on. Thoughts do what thoughts do. Spring springs, lambs are born, I eat, I get up, I go to sleep. Things kind of have a way of moving forward, regardless of what was going on in our heads, regardless of how kind of wound up we can get about these things and how much we kind of say, oh, this shouldn't be happening or this should happen. It's just, we keep going, we keep moving forward. And I've been enjoying watching what continues to happen and what people continue to do like normal, as though nothing is different. And it just has really, I don't know,
all of those things, isn't it, that just keep doing,
regardless of how much things bring. Let's be honest, we happen to have a very beautiful garden, which is quite fortunate in the circumstances we're in. And every day this week we've managed to sit outside and have a cup of tea or some lunch, and it is just so beautiful. The air is crisp and clear, and like I said, the daffodils are blooming. Oh, they're beautiful. I've been starting to eye up my garden and think about what I'm going to do with my garden over the next few months. So I am loving spring.
Oh, that is, it is. The weather, we've been incredibly blessed. It's absolutely beautiful. So So my living, learning and loving for this week, I have been reminded again and again and again how much we live in the unknown. I think that is just something that has been shown to me in so many ways during this last week. Just how much we have it set up, or our thinking tells us that we can only be safe and only be okay when we know what is going to happen. And I think, everybody has had their world shaken slightly in this last week with all sorts of things that have been going on. Is everything okay?
Just a few comments. I'm just gonna carry on.
Okay. I just think we've been shown, again and again and again, that we of what all the things we don't know, and also how much people have surprised me over the over this last week in all sorts of ways. Like people who I would have had, who I thought I knew wouldn't cope very well, have coped unbelievably, have kind of done things and been in a good headspace, and people who I thought were strong and wouldn't be, and that's maybe sounds a bit like I'm putting them down and saying it's not, but it surprised me again that we don't know what we're going to think next. And it has humbled me to see the reactions from different people and kind of going into that place. And those moments when I've lost my head a little, it's been really, really, that's humbled me too. It's kind of shown me, do you know what? We are all in this together. And at the moment, I think there's a beautiful feeling of us all being in this together. We've had some amazing conversations. We've been on Skype calls with people that we probably wouldn't have ended up on Skype calls with, but because of what's happened and, you know, what's going on and people reaching out to us and various things, we've ended up on calls and meeting people that we maybe wouldn't have met before. And the amazingness of those people it's blown me away. You know, the way that we have come together and the way that people are kind of saying how they are feeling that we are all in this together. And I think it's reminded me that is always the same too. All human beings are always up against what their own mind is doing. And I think just at the moment that is really being highlighted for us, you know, and I'm sure some of you have maybe been shocked at how much this has rattled you, and also equally been shocked at how okay you play. I actually, for the first time in my life, feel surprisingly calm because, you know, I haven't got to make decisions about what I'm going to do this week. I haven't got to, all these decisions have been taken. And I thought that she was going to be going crazy and she wasn't. And so it just, it highlighted to me again what we don't know, how much we live in the unknown, and how we never know in any given moment. None of us on here know what our next thought is going to be and what our reaction to that is going to be. And I think it does us good to kind of to remember that, and to, I know on a couple of the Skype calls, and I know sometimes when we have the challenges in our Facebook group, one of the beautiful things about that community in our Facebook, and I think it's a good thing to be reminded of, that as human beings, we are all the same, we're all part of the same system, and we are always all in this together. And we never know when our thinking is going to hook us in and we are going to be the one that needs a little bit of help and support. So, and my loving this week is the beautiful people who came on our coffee morning that we did on Monday. We had an amazing group of people, and one person I'd like to give a big shout out to, John, who was on that call. Yeah, absolutely loving John this week. He reached out to us, and yeah, he's an amazing man. So thank you, loving all you guys, and especially John this week. So
yeah, I love what you were saying there, Deb, and it's really, I'm a collector by nature. I love collecting things, and one of the things I've been collecting this week is little stories in my mind that I've heard people share of people that have reached out and done amazingly nice things for people. And someone was telling us on a call earlier that a business they know is potentially in trouble, and someone that's a customer of theirs has offered to help them out financially if they need it. And you know, just stories like that I'm hearing. And we live quite close to a village here in North Devon, and I've watched that village kind of step up and create a group and share with each other in the midst of this. You know, every time somebody's going to a supermarket, they put a message out to see if anybody needs anything. You know, there's been food banks going up left, right, and centre. I'm just blown away by the way people are kind of supporting each other in this kind of way. And I'm just collecting all these beautiful little stories in my mind of, you know, what people are doing to help each other. So yeah, it's really,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think we're amazing. I think human beings are absolutely amazing. And you know, we're all on that human roller coaster, aren't we? We all have our moments when we dip down a little bit, and I think that's those moments, you know, when we can be there for each other and support each other through those times, knowing that a roller coaster by nature, we're going to come back up, and we're going to be here again, you know. And sometimes it's okay to reach out if we're feeling a little bit scared, if we're feeling anxious and unsure. That's okay. But I'm just feeling so blessed to know what I know about how our experience is created and what is going on, and know that I don't have to listen to some of the fearful thinking that goes through my mind at times, because trust me, I do have some really fearful thinking at times, and I am eternally grateful that I know that I don't have to be drawn in by that, and I don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So our question this week, how do I carry on when I don't know when this will end? Yeah. So I feel that's kind of topical to kind of what's happening. But we worded it a little bit on purpose, because obviously there is certain things happening at the moment, and the coronavirus that's kind of happening, and what's going on for a lot of people. But equally, there are times in our lives where we're in a situation or a circumstance that feels like we don't know how to get through it because we don't know when it will end. That we talk a lot about relationships, and I know kind of relationship difficulties can be one of those things where it's like, how do I get through this when I don't know when it's going to end? I know I often hear people say, I would be okay if I knew this will work out, it'll be over in a week, it'll be this, it'll be that. And so whether this this question is kind of relevant to specifically now, but also just generally when there's stuff happening for us that we feel kind of that attachment to a knowing. And I think it starts with what Deb was just talking about in her living and learning, the fact that we always live in the unknown. We think that we know, we make it up that we know. We tell ourselves, I know I'm going to work tomorrow. I know the kids are in school next week. I know that this is what's happening. I know that that is what's happening. And then kind of say, right, I'm okay because I know that. And the places where I don't know, I'm not so okay. And it is that, how do I carry on when I don't know when this will end? Because actually, we're not dependent on knowing to be able to carry on and be okay. And I think that touches on kind of my living and learning, is that we carry on anyway. It's surprising, like there is something about us that wants to have this life experience, this human experience, that kind of drives us on anyway. Like we can get really hooked on, I need to know to be okay. But actually, the minute we look at that, do I need to know to be okay? How many times in your life have you felt you've known something and it hasn't been the case? I know Lucy, in one of her examples, she knew that she was in one of her relationships for life. Turns out she wasn't, and she's perfectly okay. We have these places where we say, I know I'm okay when I know this, or I'm okay when I know this. But when we just come back to seeing our okayness comes before any of that knowing, it comes before anything. There isn't anything we have isn't reliant on knowing something. We don't have to know a something in order to carry on and be okay. Our peace, our well-being is innately ours. Like there is nothing out there that has to be different in order to be okay. We can come back to anything outside having to be different at all.
I think that's a key piece here, like coming back to this moment, because I think that question is kind of, how do I carry on when I don't know when this will end? That question is projecting us into the future and creating a future time, not this moment. It's kind of, how I can't do this for a certain amount of time, or I can't. And I know some of the people that we have spoken to during this, it's kind of like, I don't know if I can carry on doing this day after day after day after day. And that's when they get into anxious thinking, and when they kind of break down, and when things look difficult. And yet when we take a breath and come back and go, okay, so what if you only have to do it in this moment? What if there's just now? And then, what scares us is a future that looks unknown, a future that looks like a place we don't want to live in. Even if that future is only projected as the next moment. And it's like one of those, there was something that my granddad used to say, it's that whole, the diet will start tomorrow or something. I can't remember, but my granddad used to say some straight, I can't remember what it was, it's gone, but it was like, it is that tomorrow never comes. It's that kind of thing. We never actually get to, when we're in this moment, we are in the present moment. So there is no such thing as the future. It's not somewhere we can get to. It's because by the time we get there, it's like smoke and mirrors. It isn't that. We are in this moment, this moment, this moment. And looking to the past, I know there's one of the things that Beck and I talk about sometimes, if it appears useful. It's on the table that I had a past and a future, but it's also on the table that if there never was anything else, just this moment. So if there is something useful about thinking about a past time, then I'll have a past. If there is nothing useful, then I'm just, no, this moment, thanks. And the same goes for the future. If I'm sitting and it's looking out now and looking and thinking, oh, a bit later it might be really, really nice to go out for a walk this evening, and so I'm making up that there's going to be a future time that I can go for a walk, yeah, I'm good with that. If I'm making up, how can I carry on if I don't know, I'm looking to a bleak future that I don't know what it's going to be, yeah, I don't want a future, thanks. I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to be in this moment, because to me, it is all on the table, and it is always all on the table. And I think kind of part of playing the human game and some of the things we do and the challenges we put out and these shows are about kind of inviting you to get curious about that. What do you mean by it's all on the table? And to me, it looks like there is always an option that we can take that is going to scare the daylights out of us. Every single moment I am alive, I can look to a scary future. Every single moment that I'm alive, part of this knowing myself, part of getting to know myself more deeply as a human being is what's useful to me in this moment. And I'm not fixed, as in I get to choose, in every now, in every moment that passes, I get to choose. I get to look again and make that decision again and again and again and again. And it's hugely freeing. It's exciting, and it's fun to do that.
It really, what was kind of coming to me as you were sharing was when we talk about going in the opposite direction. They're like, I don't know, it's been a while since we've used this one and this analogy, but if you kind of ever been to the cinema, we talk about how as human beings, our experience actually comes through us and is projected outwards in the same way that cinema, which you can't go to at the moment, by the way, so don't go out to the cinema. But if you have been to the cinema in the past, there's like a cinema reel that kind of, and it probably is more digital.
More digital now these days, yeah.
In our day,
when I was young,
there was a cinema reel, and it kind of projected out onto the screen. And when we're asking, to my mum, when we're asking questions like, how do I carry on when I don't know when this will end? What we're doing is projecting that film onto the screen as though the film, the film is the answer. Like, we can get into the film and resolve this. And we know, like, if you think about how that works, if you want to watch a different film on that screen, you've actually got to look the other way. You've got to look back at the projector box. That's where things change, from back there, not from out on the screen. So it's like, when we're asking that question, we're on the wrong side of how this works. It's actually the other way.
Learning. That was what I was pointing to, the fact that we assume in a certain set of circumstances, we are going to feel a certain way. And yet, the people that do struggle and suffer with anxiety, and the reasons that they give that they struggle with anxiety, I think if we have the courage to look at it slightly differently, and I think, that is exactly what Beck was saying. We're not kind of, it can sometimes feel as if we're maybe sort of saying all the things that you have heard about how anxiety works, and all the things and all the way it looks as if our brain works, and the way it looks as if, certain things work. It really looks as if there are, things are connected in a certain way. And so there are certain things that we have to do to, first of all, to rid ourselves of anxiety. And, it really looks as if things are set up a certain way. And then we get things like, that happened to Lucy. And it's like, what's going on there? Why did Lucy get anxious when she was somewhere she wanted to be, that she paid to be, that she had, saved money and deliberately done, how did that happen, that she became anxious? And it is because we do not know what we're going to be thinking in the next minute. We do not know what is going to happen for us. And there isn't the connection that we believe that there is. And I think one of the things human beings do is connect things up. I've watched people and people we've spoken to over the last few days kind of say, well, with what's going on, you expect people to feel this way, and you expect people, it's very obvious if you do this, people are going to feel like that. And one of the things that we often point to is, but what about the people who don't? It's not a cause and effect. It's not going to be, if there's a virus going around like this, it's not going to be that every person is going to react in the same way. And whatever it is you are anxious about, whatever it is I am anxious about, it's not the same. I get anxious about something, and that to you is probably something, well, I wouldn't get anxious about that. And other people get anxious about things, and they're things that don't bother me at all. And what we are inviting you to do here is get curious about that. Why? And there is a really, really, really simple explanation, because you're going to feel what you think. And when you have anxious thinking, you are going to feel anxious. That's it. And when we then look at that further and see that human beings can think the strangest of things at all sorts of time, we have no idea what we're going to think next. But as Beck was pointing to right at the beginning when we started speaking today, nature is a system it works perfectly. Do you know what? If you said to me, I'm feeling anxious, I'm like, great, that's this system in action. That's you working perfectly. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with a person feeling anxious at all. It is so normal. But then we kind of get into this crazy place of believing that we shouldn't be doing that, believing that things should be different, and we kind of add insult to injury, if you like, and cause like a storm in a teacup or something that doesn't need to be there. But when we are pointed in a different direction, when we kind of start to look, what if it's okay to feel anxious in this moment? What if that's perfectly okay? What if it's perfectly normal and it's perfectly okay? And the thinking that I'm having that is causing this anxiety is going to pass, and then I will be perfectly okay. And just getting curious about that. And I get sometimes, trust me, I've been anxious. I've felt scared. I've been terrified half out of my wits at times. I haven't got to this grand old age and not kind of had stuff happen to me. And it's like, I get that that's not always easy. But what I have seen too many times for it to ignore it is that when we get curious in that way, we are part of an impeccable system that works perfectly. And the fact that these things are happening to you says to me you work perfectly. And when people who are part of this system, which is just every single human being, apart from that, when we get curious and when we look in this direction, we start to see things that have always been there, things that we're like, how did I miss that? We begin to see things because every single one of us is already mentally healthy. We are already perfectly okay. We just don't know it, and we just don't always see it. But if we just get curious and look in this direction, amazing things start to happen.
The other thing that was just kind of occurring to me then was that, a bit like we've already talked about a little bit about the kind of projecting a future or kind of falling into a past, and where that can be unhelpful. One of the things I've seen people kind of doing around the isolation and the loneliness and anxiety that they're anticipating around this is that kind of, we make up how this is going to go. We've been told at this stage in the UK that it's a 3-week isolation, and then we make up in our minds that that's going to be 3 weeks. We don't actually know that. Like, I'm not saying it won't be, but we don't actually know that it will. And then we also go above and beyond, because there was a lot of talk of it being a 3-month, isolation and that kind of thing. And so we make that up too, and we're going, oh no, it's going to be 3 months. It's going to go on far longer than what he said. And we kind of just, I've just heard so many people in the last week making up stories about how this is going to go. And I can see as we go into those stories, it's obvious we're going to feel anxious about it. You can see that from that story, we're going to drive ourselves to kind of anxiety and loneliness feelings, because we've made up a story and we're living in that story. We're living as though that story is true now. And it just isn't. Right now, we're perfectly okay. Like in this moment, we are perfectly okay. The only time we kind of get those feelings and those that kind of anxiety is when we pop into the future and make up a 3-week, 3-month, 3-year isolation, and I can't cope for that long because, and we make up all the reasons and all the stories in the world why we can't do that length of time, and all of it is just made up. And for me, it's about just coming back to what is true right now. And right now, I'm perfectly okay, in whatever way that is. And I mean right here and right now. There's nothing about me that isn't okay in this moment. And the only times I feel not okay, when I feel lonely or anxious about any of this, is when I've popped into a future story about how long this might last, what it might mean, whether I'll get the food that I want to get, whether I'll see my partner again for months on end, whether Deb will drive me up the wall, whether this will happen.
Never gonna happen.
Whoops, didn't mean to say that out loud. But it just, what I notice is that we take it on as this massive, big block of 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever we've made up in our mind that we've got to survive. And we don't live like that. We actually live moment to moment. And moment to moment, we're designed to live that way. And we can live this moment. That's it. And it kind of comes right back again to that simplicity. We only have to live this moment. We don't have to live the next 2 weeks and 6.5 days. We just have to live this moment. And that's it. There's nothing more we're ever asked to do than live this moment, this one right here. And for me, something about that just brings me right back, brings me right back down to kind of this centered and grounded, peaceful feeling. There's nothing else I have to live except this moment. And I can do that. I'm wired to do that.
Thanks, Bet.
So we decided this week that we're not going to do a competition. Sorry to all of you eager beaver competitioners out there.
But we would still love your comments on our show if you don't mind. Whatever comments, questions, we always love to hear from you.
Yeah, we will bring the competition back in due course, but this week we just we're doing a lot more online stuff and a lot more connecting at the moment with what's happening. So we thought we'd kind of give ourselves a week off from a competition winner. But the competition will be back, and like Deb says, feel free to kind of comment if there's something you want to share about what this week's show has brought up for you, if you've got questions or topics you want us to cover another time, and just to let you know, where are we now? It's Wednesday, so tomorrow morning at I think 9:15 we're doing our challenge, our live challenge.
Yes, we'll be in our group. So if you're not part of our Facebook group, quickly go to Facebook. Well, before tomorrow,
join us
and join us on Facebook. So that is Dare to Be You with a purple heart at the end.
Yeah. Then on Friday morning we're going to do a virtual coffee and chat. So at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. We've got a Zoom link, and we're kind of putting that everywhere, but I think we'll make sure that's below this video.
I'll pop the Zoom link in.
If you want to join us, it's very informal. You can just drop in for a quick 10-minute break if you want to, or you can stay for the whole thing. And it's just an opportunity to come and pull your hair out with us for a minute, let off some steam, ask a question if there's something that's kind of boggling your mind in all of this, but just to kind of have a space to hang out together. And just remind ourselves of everything we know that's true and helpful. So you can join us for that on Friday. And then next week's show, Deb.
So our topic next week is going to be jealousy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
That green-eyed monster.
Yeah. We've had a few conversations with people. We think it's a great one for relationship stuff in general. And I think, if you're like me, if you're human, I'm sure you know what I'm talking
not.
about. No, you've never been jealous of anything or anyone
I'm
in
not
your
human.
life.
I'm an
You're
alien.
not human. Yeah.
Sent here to
Okay.
spy on you all.
So obviously Beck has never felt jealous of anything, but I'm sure we've all experienced that. So yeah, that's going to be our topic next week. So if there's any, if you've got any questions around that or anything you want to share with us around that, please feel free to be in touch. And I can't see the board.
Can you read the question, or shall I read
it?
Our question next week is, how do I stop being angry? Because just one of the things I've seen, and not just around this, but as it's so topical at the moment, kind of what's going on and what we're being asked to do and what people aren't doing, and with there feels like there's a little bit of an anger energy around some of what's been happening recently. And of course, like with anything, that's topical for relationships too. So how can I stop being angry? That's our question for next week.
So have a great week, and hopefully we will catch up with you somewhere else. We're always not out and about at the moment. We are always about, not out, but about. And yeah, there'll be plenty of places you can find us. So we've got our Facebook group, Dare to Be You with the Purple Heart. We put out a newsletter. All the information about these things are underneath this video if you scroll down and have a look. So yeah, you can find us on Facebook. You can sign up to our newsletter, get our daily inspirations, and as always, do feel free to reach out to us if you want to have a chat. We are doing free chats at the moment with anyone if you want to reach out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you. Take care and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.